pues damos paso a Óscar Azcárate, director
Okay,
general de
I'm going to
Baskegur,
give the
que
floor
va
to Oscar
a
Azcárate,
presentar la mesa
who's going to
redonda, el
now
debate
introduce
final.
the
Con esto
final
terminamos
debate, and
esta
we'll be
jornada.
finishing this seminar with this roundtable discussion. Well, thank you very much, Luis. And as Luis was pointing out, it's the second day today, and yesterday we held session number one of these two that are going to focus on what we call the technical sessions. The technical sessions come under Egurtek and also in the Timber Week of the Basque Country. And what we're going to do now is give continuation to the subjects that were discussed yesterday that focused on the bioeconomy strategy. And we had experts from Canada, Finland and the Basque Country speaking. And today what we are going to do is we're going to continue with the bioeconomy issue, but in a much more specific manner, which I think can be understood perfectly well when we talk about bioeconomy, and this is related to sustainable construction in timber. So what is it we're talking about? Today we'll be seeing some very specific projects, bioeconomy projects, in other words, new products that are based on innovation and technology are being launched into the market, and in a way we are developing this strategy in order to be able to obtain more wood products, but it would be natural and renewable raw materials that can replace others that are less sustainable, that are produced based on petrol or oil. Like we did yesterday, we have some experts, and we're going to be combining, well, rather we'll get to know realities from the Basque country, and we have the experts that are dedicated to products of this kind and the projects that I mentioned previously. And then I would also like to call upon experts from Finland. We've been working with them for some time. And as I don't want to postpone things, I'd like to welcome Finland. And we have with us, Tuomo Kauranen, who's the director of Arbonaut, and I had the pleasure of meeting him in Finland. Hi, Tuomo, good morning.
Good afternoon.
Hi. And
also from Finland, we'll have Ville Mertanen from Finland. So these are going to be completely different presentations. Ville Mertanen specializes in projects at Carrera University, and Tuomo will be talking about how this intelligent digital forestry is done and how they could obtain data for sustainable forestry bioeconomy. And then Ville will deliver a presentation that I'm very interested in, which has to do with what we're always talking about, that is timber engineering products, and especially on the basis of industrial construction premises. And he's going to present a very interesting project that I was lucky to see in Finland, Joensuu, which is the lighthouse, which is a 14-story building, wooden student dormitory. And we're going to kick off with Tuomo. You have the floor, Tuomo. Welcome, and off you go.
Okay. Thank you very much, Oscar. Very pleased to be back in Basque Country after quite some time. Actually, I've not been physically over there, but we've been doing forest inventory in Kipiskoa. I recall from 2006. Unfortunately, I couldn't find those results anymore, but here we go. So this is continuation to what Leena Leskinen was telling to you yesterday about how do we map our raw materials. Of course, forests are much more than raw materials. They are the source of livelihood of many people. They have the traditional role of also house construction here. I came this morning from a 150-year-old building in the middle of the national park. And we want to use them wisely. And for that, you need precise information about what kind of trees, what kind of timber is obtainable from where. In Finland, this has always been a national priority, but Arbonaut, my company, has taken it abroad also and adapted it to whatever the local circumstances are. And indeed, they are different in every single country, every single geography. So Arbonaut was founded in 1994 And we produce information, forest information and forest information systems for example, the following purposes. We map forest resources, then we guide the use of operations there. So whether that's planting, harvesting, tending of trees and so on, how to do that properly, and finally how to protect public. These are the countries where we have recently been operating. Spain is there for two reasons. First, because of the inventory in Basque Country, and because some forest fire-related pilots. So one of the things we do is building up protection for forest fire, trying to prevent them or limit their extent rather than just suppression. In terms of LiDAR, that is airborne laser scanning, which I hope Lena introduced to you yesterday, these are the kind of places where this has been done by Argonaut in different scales. LiDAR tends to be more expensive than satellite imagery. Spain has been proactive here and already twice, I think, scanned the whole country for the purpose of digital terrain model, the height and flood forecasting and flood prevention. But as far as I know, they haven't been extensively used for forest inventory so far. There are quite a few Spanish startup companies that have been active in that. But in Finland, LiDAR was adopted like the only official methodology 10 years ago. So we have now scanned the entire country for forest purposes once, and the second round is underway at the moment. In the first round, the LiDAR density was about 1 point per square meter, and now it is more than 5 points per square meter, which actually allows us to detect even individual trees to a certain extent. And we also have been working in very high density LiDAR from 100 to even 1,000 points per square meter, which is used, for example, for protecting power lines from falling trees. So in those cases, you can actually detect individual trees. And here is some examples of how the data is produced and how it is being used. So LiDAR creates a kind of a digital twin of a forest. But it's not alone enough. We also need some spectral information that can come from multispectral aerial imagery or multispectral LiDAR, or sometimes from satellite information as well. And in Finland, the current methodology uses aerial imagery combined with this high-density LiDAR. And here you can see an image that fuses those kind of data. Red actually here means infrared, so it means that whatever looks very red is actually very much alive. It's vigor. It's the growth of trees or farmland around it that you can see. Now, when we go to this higher density LiDAR point cloud, you can actually see individual trees, and here's an example of that. Now, as is easily understandable, we talk about not only billions but even trillions of trees. So automation is key. You cannot possibly think about manually identifying those trees. It has to be done algorithmically. And this new method allows us to get the biggest trees. By no means, it's not a complete picture of the forest. We have to combine like statistical precision that is based on machine learning with individual tree detection for identifying especially those kind of trees which will be most suitable for sustainable wooden construction, such as these marvelous wooden houses. Here's an example of how the data looks in the case of power line analysis. So this very high density LiDAR, you can see individual trees, and you can also see the map of the power line and what are the trees that might fall on top of those. So in the case of
sorry, Tuomo, just a minute. We can't see your presentation. Could you put it on the screen, please? Could you share the presentation with us? You have to share. You have to click on share for us to see the pictures. I'm sorry.
I have,
but we can't see the pictures.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I put it on different screen. Let me go back here. I'll try to bring it here. Can you see it now?
No.
No, sorry, we can't see anything.
Okay. Let me try. We just had it sorted out before here, before this, but it seems to be. So maybe I turn off my video and instead try to see if I can get my presentation. Yeah, I'm sorry about this.
No, no hay problema. Vamos a, mientras con el equipo técnico vamos a intentar darle apoyo a Tuomo para que...
We'll try to give you some support from here so that you can share the screen. We'll get our technical guys to give it a go.
Bueno.
Yeah, okay.
Le seguimos teniendo a Tuomo, pero por lo que sea, bueno,
hemos
perdido la
and now you've disappeared. We can't see Tuomo, I'm afraid. But in the meantime, we have the technicians that are providing the necessary support so that we can follow the presentation. That was very interesting, by the way. But we not only wanted to see Tuomo there, we also wanted to see the presentation itself and the things he was referring to. And well, the explanation was highly technical, and it's also necessary to see the pictures that provide the necessary support. But in any case, let's try to reconnect with him again through the presentation. And my apologies, I'm sorry, but these are things that happen live. And well, you know that we are doing streaming live, and I'm sure that what we are going to do, we can continue with the well, okay, let's continue with the next speaker. I'm sorry. I've just been told by the team, by the technicians, that, well, so that we can recover the connection with Tuomo, we don't want to make people wait. What we can do is give the floor to Ville Mertanen. I think that we have Ville Mertanen ready to go. He's also in Finland. Hello, good morning, Ville.
Vuelvo a presentarle, él es especialista en proyectos.
He's a specialist in projects at Karelia University, and he's going to deliver a very interesting presentation on the building of Joensuu, which I think is a landmark in Joensuu and in Finland too, generally speaking. So, hi, go ahead, Ville.
Thank you. At first, asking if my presentation is. Can you see me?
Correcto, se ve perfectamente.
Yes, we can see your presentation on screen, fortunately.
There is a little bit problem with the connection because I can hear the Tuomo speaking here. But everything is fine now. My presentation is about this Joensuu and about why I think that we are pioneer of wood construction here. And my presentation is as well as to case Joensuu Lighthouse, the 14-block high building here. The connection okay?
Yes, that's correct. Your microphone is scraping against your shirt, though. Your microphone there is scraping against the shirt.
Okay. This presentation is part of one of our wood construction project, Solution for Low Carbon Construction. And few words about our university. Karelia University is mid-sized university in eastern part of Finland. And research and development is one of our basic functions. We are doing it in many fields, and wood construction is one of our focus area of sustainable energy and materials. We are doing quite much research with this wood construction. We are doing with the structural engineering, with the demanding wooden structures, construction physics, product development, laboratory scale research. But I think one of our specialties is that we are doing also research in real wooden buildings. So we are lucky to be situated here in Joensuu, where we have many of these demanding wood construction here. So we can do the research. We have been measuring moisture, shrinking, displacement in these real houses, so we get the real research information about this. I will tell something about our research in Joensuu Lighthouse in the later part of this presentation. And I told you about that. I think that the Joensuu is a pioneer of wood construction, and this picture tells something about it. This is a satellite picture from Joensuu. You can see there's a nice river Pielisjoki going through the city, and here is a couple of wood buildings here in Joensuu. First one on the top, there is CLT apartment area made in 2002, and when it was made, it was the biggest CLT building in Finland. So we were in first. After that came below this metal house, and when it was made, it was the biggest office wooden office building in Finland too. It was made in 2004. Same time was made this Joensuu Arena, and when it was made, it was the biggest wooden multi-purpose and sport hall in Finland. Then we have our national sport, Finnish baseball, and we have the biggest wooden baseball stadium in Finland. And the latest wood construction here, and what you are mostly interested, I think, is this Joensuu Lighthouse, which is the tallest wooden house in Finland. So I think that we have been about 20 years making pioneer work here in Joensuu. We are making the biggest, the tallest. Many times we have been the first ones here in Joensuu make, and this has been a great situation for us as a university to make research in these real cases. Here is a picture from this Joensuu Arena that I told, and if you are interested about the wood construction in Joensuu, you can go to woodjoensuu.fi website and see there is a presentation about this rest of this wood construction. But I think that you are mostly interested about this Joensuu Lighthouse, which is the tallest wooden building in Finland. And it is constructor of this house is a student housing company Joensuu Elli. So it's student apartments. It's 14 blocks and almost 50 meters high. And the specialty you can see in the picture is that it's all wooden. The first floor is made out of concrete, but even the elevator shafts are made out of wood. So there is no concrete used in stabilizing or stiffening the building. There's 117 apartments for students, and quite much they are similar. So there are one-person apartments and two-person apartments, and every floor is similar than previous one. Architectural design is made by Arcadia company. It's local architecture company here. Also the structural design, LVA design, construction work are all made using local companies here. So we have a quite good combination of this knowledge to wood construction. And Joensuu Lighthouse has won some awards also here. When we made many kind of research here, we did made a time lapse about this house, and I could show it here and tell a little bit more about how it's made. Just to ask that if everybody is seeing this video. Silence means yes, I guess. So here is about the construction process. First floor and the foundations are made out of concrete, and after that started the wood construction stage, as you can see. Behind this lighthouse, there is a tent where these elements are prefabricated. So there was no need for transportation of elements to element factory. Just LVL panels came to tent and they were prefabricated in tent. And it was good also for the weather protection. Temporary roof structures here are used as a weather protection. This high building would be quite impossible task to use tent here. And you can see the elements are straightly lift here from tent to the top of the building. And building time was about 2 weeks per floor. So the wood construction, you can tell that it's quite fast. It's fast to build up elements, but of course, when the block was made, there's stuff going to previous one to finishing the apartment. So it took when the building was in a rich height, it took the time to finish apartments, build the bathrooms and kitchens and everything. Joensuu Lighthouse was in rich height in 2019 spring, and it was completed in August 2019. Yes, nice to see here in the picture. Here you can see concrete house, 6th-floor concrete house building next to it. It's the same time, and it's almost same time to build from wood this 40 blocks than the 6 blocks from concrete there. We have made questions to people who are living the house and research about it, and the people who are living this lighthouse has been extremely happy. One of the problems of wood construction is acoustic, and we have been very interested about how people they feel the acoustics, and they have been extremely satisfied to it, and they are thinking that it is almost as good this sound isolation here than in private house. So it works very well. In one case, one student told us that the sound isolation is so good that you cannot hear anything from another apartment. So it's possible to miss good party in the house because you cannot hear where the party is going, because it's student house, and I think there's quite often parties going, but you cannot hear the apartment. Here's a couple of pictures about this building stage of Joensuu Lighthouse, and this picture is from the tent next to it. So LVL panels came to tent, and here the isolation material, windows, doors were made to these elements. LVL, it's like a thick plywood was used in the walls, and CLT was used in horizontal elements like floors. There was also steel plates used in these connecting these elements to each other, so you cannot make all wood. The stiffening is one special thing, because there is no concrete heart in this building, so the stiffening was made with the steel rods. They are going through the building. You can see it here, back in this picture. It's going through the building, and it's tightened to 20 tons. So there is, it's very good way to stiffening this kind of wood construction when you have no concrete heart. Somebody can notice that there's concrete slabs here on the top of the CLT panel, but it's caused of this acoustic functional. Unfortunately, it was not possible to leave a wooden surface for people to see in the house, so it was need because of the acoustic and because of the fire to use this gypsum board to cover this wood. The fire time with this wood and with this gypsum board was 90 minutes per side. So you can think that if there's a fire in one side of the wall, it can take 180 minutes without collapsing, if there would be fire. But in add of this fire protection, there's also sprinkler system, which will extinguish fire if something happens. So it's easy to say that this is even more fire safety than the concrete building. Here is what it looks from the apartment, and I think, and my opinion is that this is quite a good house, especially for the students to live. And we appreciate here in Joensuu our students quite much, and the company Joensuu really wants to offer good apartments for the students to live. Just one thing about this is also important here. We are making university also quite much difference about the carbon uptake, how the buildings or wood buildings can be carbon storage, and there's calculations made by Stora Enso about this Joensuu lighthouse also. And if you want to think about the wood used in this building, there's used as much wood that it takes 20 minutes to grow equal amount of trees in Finnish in a summer day. So every 20 minutes comes enough wood for this kind of house. And this amount of growing trees removed 1,600 tons of carbon dioxide from atmosphere. And you can think that it's equal to annual emission of over 700 passenger cars. And this kind of use of wood, you can see it's very long-term carbon storage. So it's a good way to storage carbon. And after the lifetime of this kind of building, you can use these elements again and again and to make new wood products. We did very much of research in this Joensuu lighthouse. We measured up this structural physics, and one interesting is here in this picture we measured about the shrinking of this building. So how much the building is going down when it's made, and the result was it was going about 1 millimeter per floor. So all building almost 50 meters high went down 15 millimeters. So we could say that wood is quite a stable material, and LVL is quite a stable material. It doesn't go down much. My estimation is that even concrete house could go same amount. Thanks for your interest. My information is here, and more information about our research and about these houses and everything you can find from our websites, this karelia.fi. But thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, very interesting. Later on we will discuss this during the Q&A session, and I would like to remind the people that are watching that they can ask their questions via the Egurtek website. And as you can see, I'm flanked by two people that weren't here before. I haven't introduced them yet. And earlier I was saying that we were going to combine, as we did yesterday, experience and knowledge. Yesterday it was Canada and Finland. Today it's only Finland, and we're going to compare this with what we have at home in the Basque Country. For me it's a pleasure, and there have been colleagues on many of the projects we've been working on in the sector, and they form part of Baskegur. We already explained what Baskegur is. So I'll introduce on my left Javier García Jaca. He's project manager at Tecnalia Research Innovation. Welcome, Javier. There's no need to say that you should feel at home because you are at home. And on my right, Rodrigo Llano-Ponte, he's a chemical engineer and has a PhD from the University of the Basque Country. And you are also at home, so welcome. Thank you.
Voy a seguir con la presentación que hemos
And
tenido que cortar.
we're going to continue with the presentation that we had technical difficulties with. We weren't able to see the interesting presentation from Tuomo on the screen. So before handing over to Rodrigo and Javier, we're going to go back to Tuomo. We're going back to Finland. Hi, Tuomo. I hope that everything is working properly now. Yes, well, I confirm that we can see your presentation on the screen. So if you can go back where you had left off, Tuomo, please. I don't know whether you can hear us, Tuomo. We can't hear you now. We can't hear you. Sorry about the technical problems. Everything had gone fine so far.
Now it should be better. I hope you're hearing me now.
We can hear you now. Yes, we can hear you now. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Yes. All right. I'll go a little faster. The early part just sharing with you the pictures, indeed. So how remote sensing of forests can help in bioeconomy and especially in construction. Let me try and see if I can. For whatever reason, it seems that my presentation is not now moving, but let me try to find a way to. Aha. I suppose the connection is now slow in the way that I cannot move my slides, which is too bad. They seem to be coming up online, so maybe that we'll have to skip the presentation and move on to the panel, unfortunately. So, okay, now they are. Yeah, they're coming. I can see a change here, but I think the connection is now going.
Si le parece. Yes.
We've just seen the presentation's working. Let's make a final try, and if not, as you suggested, we can take it on later during the Q&A. But we're now seeing the presentation, so let's continue if we can.
Yeah, okay, all right. So what Arbonite does is create forest information and then uses it to help forest to inventory that, look after the forest in operational sense, and also protect the public against forest fire and power line failures. There are some of the countries that we work in, as you can see on the background, and here are countries where we have conducted LiDAR inventory. Luckily, I can see it takes a few seconds to come up on your screen. LiDAR, as I told, has been started in Finland 10 years ago quite seriously, and now we are into this higher density LiDAR point. And here was the first picture I really wanted you to see, which is a multispectral image of forest where red means a lot of leaves, a lot of trees. It's coming up slowly. Okay, here it is, yeah. And then the next layer, which is individual trees. So you can see that with high density LiDAR, we can identify individual trees, but this can never be done perfectly right. So it's one of the important lessons to learn, that you need a separate statistical assessment of the forest resources and then identify individual valuable trees by a separate process. And this is how it looks when you have really high density LiDAR, which we have used for power line safety analysis. So identifying trees that might fall on power lines and cause an outage. With that sort of high density LiDAR, you can also take a very good look at the trees, so they give a nice visual image. And here the trees have been colored to indicate which of those might actually be dangerous to the power line. So not only are the trees themselves like steady objects, but when they fall, they change their position, and we have to simulate how they would fall and whether they would reach the conductors. The conductors here are seen in red. And then just some of the analytics that you get from this sort of high density LiDAR. The most important one typically is canopy height models. So that tells you how tall are the trees in a particular location. And with high density LiDAR, you can almost tell the individual trees here. The more red, the taller the trees, and the more white, then the shorter they are. And the color can also be used to indicate the tree species sometimes. This is an automatic operational picture from a eucalyptus plantation in Uruguay. So another part of the activity is to identify homogeneous tree stands where you can then apply the same design principles. So either you address it for harvesting or for thinning or for replanting, for example. And the segmentation is done based on these forest parameters obtained from LiDAR in an automatic or semi-automatic manner. There's always an expert in the end who does it, but nowadays this expert, she or he doesn't have to walk into the forest. She or he can do the work to a large extent at desktop. Then other type of thematic maps are wheeled vehicle operability. So here, blue color means that you cannot actually drive a machine in there, a tractor or a harvester, because it's going to sink in. And reddish color or yellow color means that the slope is steep, which of course would be the case in much of Basque Country because of the Pyrenees. So this helps operators to design how they are going to route vehicles used in harvesting operations as environmentally sustainably as possible. So to leave minimum damage and get the shortest possible route to the harvestable timber. And then finally, you can do dominant species mapping as well. So here we identify from the spectral information in mixed forest stands, typical of Finland, I think also in Basque Country, that you would have a lot of tree species in the same space. You want to know what is the most prevalent of those. And here you can see it color-coded, also identified by machine learning methods. Then we come to something that is really scary. I hope you're as frightened by the picture as I was when I first saw it. This is from the firestorm Ophelia near Porto in Portugal, 2017. I think this year has been slightly better, but this was reason enough for the Portuguese government engage with us in order to create a prevention mechanism. There we work together like we always do with local partners and organizations called Forestwise in Portugal, with whom we try to use LiDAR to reduce the danger or reduce the destruction caused by this kind of firestorms beforehand, so as to plan where to put fire breaks. So as soon as a fire has started, it's really hard to stop them from starting, but you can try to address them and limit them much earlier than is possible right now. And one of those things that to be done in those cases is actually prescribed burning, that you need to burn some of the brush before the real fire starts. And this you should done in good weather conditions and in an area where you can limit the extent. And this is from North Karelia, our province. Just this summer, a picture of such a prescribed fire where brush was reduced. Sometimes we also do this for cultural reasons, to create, let's say, traditional fertile ground for slash and burn farming that used to be the traditional way of cultivating potato here in Finland. And this is an example of a map, and this is very likely from Spain, but it's from Granca. It's from one of the islands in Canary Islands, where fires also are prevalent, which provides themes that fire managers will recognize. So they tell you where there's a lot of fuel. Red always means danger, so there's a lot of burnable material. And then you find places where you can get water to extinguish it, and you find places where you can put fire breaks restrict. In mountainous areas like in Canary Islands or in Basque Country, Pyrenees, the fire ridgetops would always be one of those candidates, but not the only one. Fires tend to be most dangerous when they move uphill. They easily then jump the canopy. And finally, it's possible to protect individual houses or also to check if they are protected. So from LiDAR, you can check if houses are surrounded by bush that can burn and cause the fire to reach the building, or whether they can be have been suppressed or can be suppressed by warning the house owners first that, okay, please remove this bush, otherwise we will not be able to protect your home. And this is a three-dimensional picture, once again, how LiDAR allows you to see where the trees are, where there's some bushes, and where the house is located. For this, we, for example, need to automatically recognize all the buildings in the area, which is a highly non-trivial exercise and actually cannot be fully automated. So there's quite a lot of human effort needed. But anyway, it's desktop work, not checking every house in the ground, in the field. And I think this is my final picture. This is from the pilot we have now started this summer in Portugal. This is Monsanto Forest, right in downtown Lisbon. So culturally very valuable part, but what you see here is the terrain with the trees removed. So another thing that LiDAR allows you to do is to take away the trees, look at what the shape of the terrain is. Here you see the same analysis of wheeled vehicle mobility. So the blue areas are ones where you cannot drive easily a tractor, and you can plan your suppression actions and your mitigation actions based on the picture of the ground. You can then put the trees back to the picture afterwards, if you like. Thank you very much.
Kiitos, Tuomo. Thank you very much. Bueno, con dificultades, pero al final hemos podido escuchar y ver la presentación.
With difficulties, but we've been able to see Tuomo's presentation. That was very interesting. And in the end, it's a combination that have been suggested by our Finnish friends of combining digitization and bioeconomy projects, because what we understand that these are the two main transformation elements for the silvestry sector. I didn't mention this, but we have 15-minute presentations from each of the speakers, and then we'll be moving on to the questions, and we'll have a short debate on this subject. Right, so we're going to continue with the program, and I've already introduced them. Both of them are sitting here next to me, both of the speakers and the experts from the Basque region. And firstly, I'm going to give the floor to Javier, and he's got a presentation on what is being done by Tecnalia, because this is the reference research center in the Basque Country. What is it you're doing? What is it you're investigating in terms of biomaterials or in terms of innovation applied to the obtention of bio-based products to replace others that are produced through oil? Thank you very much, Oscar. Well, here's the presentation on screen. As mentioned by Oscar, what I would like to do is just say a few things about what is being done in terms of forest bioeconomy, and especially in relation to timber at Tecnalia. So forest bioeconomy and materials, and as was pointed out by Oscar, this is a passionate struggle from a technological perspective, because what we have to do is replace oil-derived materials, and we have to move on to biomaterials. And this is one of the elements of the Tecnalia strategy, and it's definitely, I'd say that this forms part of the passion that we have, that 20 or 25 people have that work for Tecnalia.
Nosotros trabajamos, en Tecnalia trabajamos en tres grandes
We
grupos de
work in
proyectos.
three major
Unos son
project
proyectos bajo
groups.
contrato,
One of
que es
them has to
exactamente
do
lo
with
que-
projects
lo
under
que parece,
contract,
es decir, hay una
what you can see
compañía,
on
una
the screen.
empresa
So in
que
other
quiere
words,
que
there's a company
desarrollemos algo, y
that wants us to develop something,
y trabajamos
and
bajo ese-
we work according to
bajo
that
ese paraguas.
contract.
Y luego ya veremos a continuación
And
otros
then
dos
later on,
tipos de
we'll take a
proyectos
look
que
at another
tenemos
two types of projects that we have internally. That is, these
Por ejemplo,
contract
quería presentar uno que estamos
projects. I'd like to present one that is currently in process for Llana, for Sociedad Cooperativa Llana. What we do is apply a concept that is very interesting, which is that of cascade use of wood, and how by using wood you can also produce a number of byproducts that can be reused, and these byproducts generate new byproducts at the same time that also allow us to give them value, because at the end of the day, the world of wood, you use everything, of course, but the key element is to know how we can make use of it to deliver more value, and this is an example, and it's an example in which this customer, Llana, in the manufacturing process of these boards, they generate waste, and the waste is used to manufacture pellets, and they also produce a new waste that we can make use of and which can be taken to the market. This is a pilot project. So just to clarify things, what we are doing is we are replacing 50% of a plastic material, and we are now moving on towards wood-derived products. This, for instance, is something that we're doing for a company that is called Egurtek. Egurtek has its own value chain, and what it does is launch these products, but there are some of these products that for them, well, they consider them to be waste, or they obtain value from a certain amount of added value, in this case energy valorization. So with this bark, what we can do is extract, in this case it's tannins, we can extract these chemical compounds that are called tannins, and we can produce new products that can, well, considering that it's been a success, this is offers a new product range for this particular customer, thanks to the tannins. And as I pointed out, we've carried out several kinds of projects, and these are just two examples, which, by the way, are also partially co-funded. And now I wanted to talk about our internal projects, because we also work with our own internal funds so that we can develop our own products. So what you can see on the screen right now is a material that we have called Innercell, and basically it's a rigid foam that uses paper pulp. So what we have done is, by applying a chemical treatment, this is a product that has been patented. We have a patent that has been awarded. So what we do is develop this material, and it's perfectly competitive in terms of performance compared to any other kind of thermal insulation. And as you can see, it has a low level of protection in terms of inflammability, but in any case we can provide different functionalities to this foam in the bottom left corner. I'm not sure if you can see this, but in any case what we have there, this is an example of treatment that repels water, so any droplets can be repelled and nothing gets soaked. And with this same technology, and in this example we do the opposite. In other words, we generate a foam, and in this case we're talking about a flexible foam when it becomes soaked, and we can provide it with functionalities in such a manner that if, for instance, there's a spillage in which there's oil and water, it only absorbs the oil. It does not absorb any water, just the oil.
reciclar, es decir,
and then we can recycle, we can extract that oil that we have absorbed.
Lo podemos extraer en un recipiente ajeno y luego
It can be taken to a separate container and it can be reused. In other words, it's something that can be used like the usual foams we
también es una
use.
utilización bastante, digamos, que hemos desarrollado partiendo de una
And
única
it's something that
tecnología
we've
y
developed based
aproximándonos
on
a
single technology and by
aplicaciones.
addressing different kinds of
Todo esto lo que
applications.
estamos viendo, lo que
So
hemos
all
visto
of the things that
anterior, sobre todo
we've
en el
seen
mercado, lo
before
hacemos
in the
porque
case of the
tenemos
market
una
projects, why do we do this? Well,
hay una
because we have
vocación
a
de ir
vocation,
aprendiendo.
because we want to
La mejor
learn.
forma para
And the
aprender es
best way
trabajar en
of learning
colaboración
is
con
by
otros.
establishing
Con
a
otros,
collaboration with others.
Pues algunos saben tanto
And
como tú, saben más,
people
en
that
cualquier caso
know as
tenemos,
much as you do or know
tenemos
more than you
capacidades
do, but in any
totalmente
case,
complementarias.
we
Y esa es
have
parte de la-
complementary
esa es parte de la
capabilities.
clave.
And
Por
this
eso
is where
voy a presentar,
this is a key issue.
algunos,
So this is
algunos
why I
productos.
would like to describe a couple of projects now.
que está, que
This
está en pantalla
one,
es,
the one you
bueno,
can
es un
see on the
proyecto
screen
que
right
está-
now,
que está en
it's
curso,
a project that is
en el
currently
cual
ongoing.
somos capaces de transformar
we can
residuos
transform
agroforestales en materiales
agricultural
de
and
alto valor añadido.
forestry waste
En este caso,
into
lo que
high
hemos
added
obtenido
value
es
materials,
incluso
and in this
hemos
case, what
obtenido
we
aditivos que
even
sirven
obtain
para la industria
additives
del hormigón.
that can be
Hemos sido
used in
capaces
the
de
concrete
obtener,
business.
Resinas.
We have obtained
Alguna de ellas
resins.
acaba de salir la patente,
The patent has just been released, I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
solicitud.
And yes, we did file an application
De esta forma
for a
conseguimos
patent. So in this manner,
esos subproductos
these
que tienen lugar en
byproducts
la primera transformación, en la segunda
that appear
transformación
in
de
the
la madera,
first or
somos
second
capaces
transformation
de
of the
darles
wood,
un
we
tratamiento que
can
tiene mucho
apply a
más
treatment to them that is much more valuable
para el cliente y para
for the
para el-
customer
para el
and
mercado. Es un proyecto
for
que
the
hemos,
market, and
que
it's a
hemos
project that
coordinado,
we have
nosotros.
coordinated
Se
ourselves.
llamaba, Rehab. Este es un proyecto
So
que tiene un enfoque
this is
diferente.
another project that has
Es
a
un proyecto
completely
que
different
lo-
approach,
se denomina
and
Wood
it's a
Circus,
project
está-
that is
el líder
called
es un-
Wood
es un
Circus,
líder finés,
and
es el
the
centro finés,
leader is
Y aquí lo que hemos hecho es,
VTT in
trabajando
Finland,
para toda
a
Europa,
technology center,
conseguir
and what we
y,
have done
identificar
is
las
we've
mejores
managed to
prácticas en
identify
aprovechamiento
best
de estos
practices in terms of utilizing these products.
Vamos a ver cómo podemos enseñarnos los del
So
sur a los del norte.
we
los del
want to
este
see
del
how
oeste.
we southern people
Centrándonos en
can
Europa de
teach
los-
things
de los 27,
to the people in the
cómo
north
podemos
or
identificar
the
esas
west
mejores
and the east,
prácticas,
how we can
cómo podemos
identify these best
trasladarlas
practices
para
and
que,
how we can transfer them
digamos, Europa en su
so that
conjunto
Europe as a whole can make
avance en
further
este
progress,
conocimiento y
so
en
that
esta
Europe can advance in
identificación
terms
de
of this
las,
knowledge and in terms
mejores-
of
mejores
identifying
prácticas.
the best practices.
Y ya creo que este ya es el
And I
es el
think
último
that
ejemplo
this
que
is
quería-
the
que
final
quería traer.
example
Este
that I
es un
wanted to
ejemplo que
present
está
to you.
liderado por-
This is an
por
example that is
Tecnalia, responde al
being carried
acrónimo
out by
de
Tecnalia.
Baskegur.
The acronym is
Y este proyecto
BASAJAUN,
nace desde
and
una,
this
desde una
project
reflexión,
is based
desde-
on
desde
a
una
reflection,
actitud,
and it's also
digamos, de,
based on,
casi desde,
I don't know,
humildad. Se ha dedicado
on
durante mucho
behaving in a
tiempo
very humble manner, if you
una
want, because
cantidad muy
we've
importante de recursos a
used
hacer
a
desarrollos
significant
que
amount of
normalmente,
resources
lamentablemente, en
to
muchas ocasiones,
achieve developments
acaban en
that
nuestros
unfortunately
laboratorios, acaban en los
finish
laboratorios
and
de las
end at the
universidades,
laboratories
centros
of universities and
Entonces,
technology centers.
en este proyecto lo que queremos,
But in this
lo que
project,
queremos y lo que
what
vamos a
we
hacer
want to
va a ser
do and what we
construir,
are going to do, we're going to
dos edificios
build
reales.
two buildings,
Uno
real
va a estar en
buildings.
el-
One of
uno va a
them is
estar
going to be
en Finlandia,
in Finland, in Gibalitska, if I'm pronouncing the name
El otro
properly, of
vamos
course,
a hacer
and
en Las
the
Landas.
other one is
Son
going to be built
proyectos
in
los-
Les
este es un
Landes in France.
proyecto macro
And this
en el
is
que
a
aparecen,
macro
que
project
participan 30
in
socios,
which 30
30
partners
socios
are
de
going to
prácticamente
be
todos los
involved,
países
30
europeos.
partners from
Y
practically
también,
all European countries.
hemos
And
involucrado
we've
a
also
un socio
involved
chileno,
a Chilean
para
partner
ver,
too,
también esa comparación
to
entre
establish a
Sudamérica y Europa,
comparison between
cómo,
South
cómo
America
podemos
and Europe, and to
trabajar
see
juntos y
how
cómo
we'd be
podemos-
able to work
podemos
together
unirnos.
and also see
Entonces,
how
el
we could
objetivo de este
unite.
proyecto es
But the
construir
main
esos
goal of
dos
this
edificios
project
de
is
madera
to construct these two wooden buildings, although most of its composition should be, most of its systems and materials should be innovative. In other words, materials which until now had not yet been used or only used at a very small demo scale. And that is what we want to do with these two buildings, with these two demo buildings. And well, this idea was also stems from the fact that we had to think about things in the other way around. How many hectares of a forest do we need to construct most of the materials we need for a building? And let's not only focus on the structural elements, of course. We're not only going to focus on insulations either, but we also have to take into account the chemical side of things. In other words, what could we do so that with a certain number of hectares we can be able to get these things done? And this project also has another challenge, which is that it connects the rural world perfectly well with the forests and with the city, or with cities. How can we connect both of them? How can we connect both of these elements? And this is the idea behind this project, and this is my presentation. This is what I was going to explain to you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Javier. That was extremely interesting. Well, some of the projects, in some of the projects, we are your partners, and all the things that you mentioned are very interesting about Baskegur, and we firmly believe in this project, and not only as partners, because we believe that this is a very interesting manner of being able to compare things. This was mentioned by our colleague from Finland. These 20 minutes of growth in the Finnish forest to be able to build a 14-story building. But apart from structure, we're going to be much more strict. And, well, the other things that you mentioned were equally interesting too. But then we'll move on to the questions, and I suppose that there will be more questions and more doubts later on. But now I'm going to give the floor to Rodrigo. Would you please clean the remote control? And in the meantime, well, let's give the floor to Rodrigo. And, well, you know that we have the COVID protocol. We have to be careful about things like that. And you're going to be delivering a presentation, and then after that we'll move on to the questions. But in any case, Rodrigo, you have the floor. Well, thank you very much, Oscar. My name is Rodrigo Llano-Ponte. I'm a professor at the University of the Basque Country, and I'm a member of a research group which is a very solid high-performance group supported by the Basque government that is called biorefinery processes. And what I'm going to do in this presentation is I'm going to explain four actions that are connected to some of the projects that we are carrying out, research projects, or have been carrying out over the last few years. So what we have done, we have chosen four projects. Two of them have to do, or have been carried out in collaboration with industry and with other institutions, and the last two are related to developing PhDs that have brought about what I'm going to explain right now. So the first of them, which is a collaborative project with the three provincial councils and with USSE and with the UPV laboratories. And what we want to do is valorize these species in the Atlantic area. So what we have done, we have a number of species, among them we have birch, chestnuts, so on and so forth, and we have, well, through a fractioning process, we have obtained on the one hand nanocellulose, as you can see here, but apart from that, we have to treat the wood first to remove lignin. So this is why we have lignin that allows us to develop new chemical products that have a very high added value. But apart from the wood itself, what we've also treated is the bark, which is very similar to what was mentioned by my colleague, by Javier. And we've done so through an extraction process by combining two simultaneous techniques. One of them has to do with microwaves and ultrasounds in order to obtain extracts for different kinds of applications, antioxidants, polymers, and so on and so forth. So, by using a homogenizing system and high pressures, we obtained nanofibers of cellulose, and then on the other hand, based on the combined process of microwaves and ultrasounds, we obtain extractives such as tannins, lignins, fat, and this is something that can be used in different industries, like cosmetics industries, for example. There's another project that we're currently working on. We worked on this last year, and now we've reached the second part. And in particular, this has to do with the collaboration with Baskegur. We have two companies, Evaki, that supplies the raw materials. In other words, the sawdust, and then Isobas, that uses the development that is currently underway in order to obtain polyurethane foams, and then a spin-off that is called MA plus D, and we are the developers of the spin-off.
Entonces, lo que hemos hecho es, a partir del serrín, esto de alguna manera procede de una tesis doctoral que había
that had been,
no recuerdo mal, hacia
done, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in 2010 or 2011, it was a Chilean who developed this PhD, where through the liquefaction processes, we obtained a biopolyol, and this biopolyol was mixed with urethane supplied by Isobas, and we obtained polyurethane film. And at the laboratory level, as you can see in the pictures, we've obtained the foams, and right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, will be at the end of this week, next week, we're going to be receiving a machine model so that we can make this polyurethane foam that is similar to what they're using at the company, so that we can adjust all the parameters, and then after that, with this polyol, what we would do is then go to the company to test it on real machines. So the project has been highly developed, and we are now running the tests at a pilot plant. And these are foam for construction, yes, but it's a very open issue, because it could be, I don't know, foam or panels, so let's say that it's a pretty open field. But in any case, in principle, this is for construction, because the company Sobas uses this foam to replace its polyol that is oil-based, and to use ours that has to do with this particular development that is based on sawdust, and there's an interest on the part of both companies. And then on the other hand, in recent years there have been two PhDs that are related to wood, with wood waste or timber waste, and other applications for this waste, which has to do with what Javier said before. We have to see everything as a whole. So what we've developed are new conservative elements for wood. So based on lignin, we obtain what we were going to obtain. We were going to obtain natural preservatives where lignin is going to be used, and low toxicity metals. And we've just been confirmed, because we haven't published anything, there's still a patent pending, but this has just been confirmed a short time ago. And the person that did the PhD at our laboratory is called Patricia Ribera. She's Brazilian, and she's currently working as a professor at a university. So what we have done, on the one hand, we have studied two kinds of wood, pine and eucalyptus, and we've used different techniques to study the wood, to see how the wood absorbs the product that we are developing, its hardness, its high-plasticity, its shear resistance, its fire resistance, its color, its brightness. And we've also studied, we've looked into how this behaves in degradation studies in the case of fungi, and we've studied two kinds of fungi.
Por otro lado, una vez esa madera ha estado durante 405 días expuestas
been
en
exposed for
condiciones, como se
405
puede ver
days
en
under the
la
conditions you can
fotografía,
see in
en
the
el campo,
picture,
en concreto en
in the
Brasil,
field, in
lo que hemos
particular
hecho es una
in Brazil, of all
evaluación
places,
visual,
but what we
vimos
did
la
was
pérdida
a
de
visual
masa,
assessment. We saw
las
that there
propiedades
was a loss
mecánicas,
of
la
mass. We
presión,
looked
tanto
into
el módulo como la
the mechanical
resistencia,
properties
el
and the
color y
resistance
la
module,
velocidad.
color and
Y los
roughness.
resultados que hemos
And
obtenido
the
se
results that
pueden
we've
ver
obtained can
en
be
esta
seen
diapositiva,
on
donde
this slide, where
aproximadamente en los extremos,
approximately
las columnas grises,
at either
el
end,
extremo
well,
gris
the
oscuro
dark
corresponde
grey
a la
bars
madera no tratada,
correspond
la
to
otra
untreated
en
wood,
el otro extremo es la
and
madera
at
no
the
tratada.
other end we
Se
have
pueden ver que
the
son,
treated
uno
wood,
es
and you
la
can see
oscura
that
es
the dark bar
pino y la
is
clara es
pine,
eucalipto, y entonces
and the
cómo
other
se
one
va
is eucalyptus, the
produciendo. En
light
realidad lo
grey
que tenemos es
bar. So what we
dos
have really, we
ligninas,
have two
una
lignins,
obtenida por el proceso
one that has
organosoft
been
y
obtained
otra
through the
por el
organosoft process, and
proceso
the other
craft,
one
se
through
puede
the
ver ahí
craft
por
process,
la
and you
y
can see
cómo
that
se han
on the
ido
chart,
modificando
and how
con
what we have done
metales
is
de baja
modify them
toxicidad.
with
Y
low
los resultados que
toxicity
hemos
metals, and the
obtenido
results
son los
that
que
we've
se
obtained
pueden ver.
are the
Como
ones
por
that you can
ejemplo
see
la
on the
pérdida de
chart.
masa
Like for
es
instance, the
menor
loss of mass
en
is
en
lower
ambas especies.
in both
Por
species,
otro lado también podemos
and then
ver
on the other hand, you
cómo
could
el
also
tiempo de
see
ignición es
how
mucho más
the
lento
time to
en
ignition
todos los
is much
casos.
slower in all instances,
El tiempo de llama
and
también se ve que
flame
las
type, well,
tratadas
you can
se
also see
comportan
that
mucho
those
mejor,
that were
y lo
treated
mismo
behave much
suele
better,
pasar
and
con
the same
el tiempo de
applies
brasa.
to ash
Por otra
type.
parte, también como he comentado, hemos estudiado en concreto
Or ember time, rather.
ensayos
And we've
acelerados con
also
los hongos para ver su comportamiento.
studied
Y vemos
fungi
que
to
en
see how
todos
they
los casos,
behave.
las pérdidas
And
de
in
masa
all cases,
de
you can
estos
see that
el
the
tratamiento
well,
mejora la durabilidad de la
there's
madera.
a
En este
much
caso es
bigger improvement in
hecho
the
con
improvability,
el pino,
in the durability,
frente a
sorry, of the
los
wood.
dos hongos con los que hemos tratado.
And in the case of the two
También
fungi that
dentro
we've been
del
using,
estudio visual
and
se
also in
puede
the
ver
visual study, you can also clearly see
cómo la
how
diapositiva de arriba en esta columna
in the
que está
top
marcada en
picture,
verde, se puede
in
ver
the
cómo
green column,
la no
you can
tratada
see how
ha
the
sufrido el ataque
untreated
de los
wood
hongos,
was
mientras que las
attacked by
tratadas
fungi,
por
whereas
nuestra parte
those that were
con los
treated
materiales
by
que he
us with the
comentado,
materials that I
pues,
mentioned
su
previously,
comportamiento
their behavior
es muy
is
interesante.
very interesting indeed.
Hemos hecho ensayos
So we've
físico-mecánicos
performed
de la madera. En
physical
este
and
caso,
mechanical
estamos
trials on the wood,
viendo que en
and
general
in
los
this case we
tratamientos
can
lo
see
que
that generally
presentan
speaking
muchas
the
menores
treatment
pérdidas de masa. Se
presents
puede ver claro
much
que los materiales
lower
tratados
mass losses, and you can see that there's a significant
en la pérdida de
reduction
masa, mientras que
in
la no
terms
tratada
of
se ve que
treated
como ha ido
materials, and in the
perdiendo.
case
Y
of
también
untreated,
en
you can
el
see
eje de
that there was
abscisa
a
se
loss,
puede ver
and
claramente
then
el
on the
tiempo, después de
abscissas you can see
405 días,
after
donde está,
after
cómo
405 days you can see
En cuanto
what
a
kind
las
of influence
propiedades,
exerted
tanto
by
de
the treatment,
resistencia
and
como
as
módulo,
regards
el
resistance
comportamiento
and the
se ve
modulus,
que es
you can see that the behavior is always
después de 400 días,
well, after
las muestras
400 days,
presentan
you could see
mejores
that
valores
the samples
que los
have
que
presented
presentan
much better values than
las muestras sin tratar
what
con
we had
este.
in the case of the untreated samples or
La
specimens.
segunda tesis
And then
doctoral
the
que
second
se ha desarrollado
PhD that
y se
has
defendió
been developed
en el
and was defended
2019
in 2019,
es una tesis doctoral que se ha hecho
well, it's a PhD
en nuestros laboratorios,
that
pero
was
también
carried out at our laboratories, but
en Man de Marsan,
also
es
at Man de Marsan, that
de
belongs
y
to
lo
the
que hicimos
University
fue
of Pau.
utilizar
And
ligninas
what we did was
y
use
taninos
lignins
para hacer
and tannins
recubrimientos
to
sobre madera
provide
frente
coatings for
al
wood
fuego.
and
Es
to
decir, la madera, uno de los
provide
grandes
protection against
inconvenientes
fire. You know that
es el
one of the
fuego,
major
ya se ha
setbacks
comentado
for wood
en
is fire,
las
and that
presentaciones
was mentioned in the
anteriores.
two previous
Entonces,
lectures.
lo que
So
hemos hecho
what
es
we
desarrollar
have done, we
un
have
sistema
developed
de protección al fuego.
fireproofing system.
El método tradicional generalmente
traditional
lleva,
method, well, it's,
los agentes
based
de protección llevan halógenos. Nosotros hemos
halogens,
desarrollado
and
en la
we
actualidad
have
elementos
developed
a base de
a number
ligninas y
of elements
taninos
that are based on
sin
lignins and
en ausencia
tannins
de halógenos.
in the
cual,
absence of halogens,
en el recubrimiento
which in the
va a estar
case
mucho
of
más
coatings
compacta.
is going to produce a much more compact
Simplemente hago una
result.
presentación de cómo
And
hemos
this
hecho
is a
los
brief
trabajos de
presentation
extracción.
on how we
Por un
did
lado
the
utilizamos
extraction
el
work,
pino
because we
y
used
hicimos, esto lo
pine
hicimos
on the one hand,
en el
and this
laboratorio
is
para
something that we
extraer
did at
la
the
lignina,
laboratory to extract
también de la
lignin,
acacia. Esto se
and
hizo a
with the
nivel
acacias,
industrial
this was
para
also done
extraer
at an industrial
los
level
taninos,
to
y aparte
extract the
hemos
tannins, and then
utilizado
apart from that,
unas
we have
partículas
also
inorgánicas a
used
nivel
inorganic
nanométrico
particles at a
para
nanometric
hacer
level
unas modificaciones
to make
sobre el
some
elemento de
modifications
tratamiento.
on the treatment element.
Sí. el proceso de fabricación ya se puede ver ahí. Hemos extraído por organosol. Por otro lado, hemos unido los dos materiales para formar lo que podríamos llamar la lignina híbrida modificada, y al final
hybrid modified lignin, and then with the agents that we've added, you can see how we create a new element.
Estas son las partículas que hemos
So
utilizado
these
para
are the
hacer los
particles that we have used to perform the trials, and we...
Como se puede ver, hemos utilizado
Well, as you can
unas
see,
condiciones para la
we've
madera, y
used
luego
certain
esas
conditions
maderas
for the
hemos
wood,
tratado con
and then
distintas
this wood
lijas
has been
para
treated
someterlos
with
a una serie de ensayos. Aquí tenemos
sandpaper.
las
And
diapositivas.
here you can see
el de arriba al material no tratado,
the
y el otro
untreated
al
material
material
at the top,
tratado,
and
y vamos
the
viendo
treated
cómo en
material at the bottom.
en la línea inferior, por un lado, disminuye la
And
cantidad de
you can
humos,
see how there's
y
a
por otro lado,
reduction in
cómo
the
la
amount of
llama
smoke,
se propaga
and
mucho
how
más
the flame
lentamente.
propagates much
Tengo un
more
vídeo aquí,
slowly.
no sé si
I have a
creo
video
que
here, and
estamos
I'm not
justo,
sure.
¿no?
I think that we're running out of time, aren't
Será de
we?
un minuto, cosa
It's
así.
only 1 minute long.
No sé si se puede poner, Es que no
I'm not
sé
sure if we
aquí
can, if I can,
si arrancará, sí.
yes, it's working. Yes, it is working from here.
Cómo se tiene en contacto con las probetas y cómo va reaccionando.
Well, you can see
frente a la llama.
what kind of reaction there is in the specimens with the flame.
Bueno, ya vemos cómo se consume uno no tratado.
You can see how the untreated specimen is consumed by the fire.
No tratado.
This is the untreated specimen.
Y ahora veremos.
And now we're going to see the treated specimen, or the treated sample.
El mismo tiempo de contacto.
It's the same contact time, if you've noticed that.
Poco a poco, la
So
llama,
little by little,
la llama poco a poco será apagando.
the flame is put out little by little.
Muy interesante.
That's very interesting
Bueno,
indeed.
es una forma de...
Well, okay.
Gracias,
Well,
Rodrigo.
thank you very much, Rodrigo.
Es una forma
And
de
it's a
poner valor,
way of valorizing things and of getting to know that lots of research work is underway, that lots of projects are underway, and that all of these products can help us in terms of construction. And above all, what they do is clarify certain doubts that are associated with timber in construction. And we know that wood and fire, well, we know that wood is a very safe element and it's very stable in relation to fire, but with products of this kind, I know that this fire resistance becomes even greater. Okay, well, sorry about the technical problems, but I suppose that we're going to have less time for the questions now. But in any case, I think that it is interesting for us to at least make a few remarks on what we have pointed out. And I think that, well, we've listened to different experiences. We've had some very interesting lectures here. And the first question that usually crops up whenever we talk about products of this kind, in which there's lots of research involved, you know that there's a contribution of expertise. So are they more expensive? Are they not more expensive? Are they going to be competitive? So perhaps, well, yesterday we even mentioned this during the panel discussion, how it is we can support these products so that they can be launched into the market. I don't know, how could this be made easier? And I think that the people that make these products in favor of sustainability is a very important thing. So I would like to go back to what we mentioned yesterday with today's experts. In other words, what it is do we have to do to valorize these products? Are they competitive in the market? Based on what was mentioned previously from Finland in relation to that 14-story building and all of what Duomo said about digitization, I suppose that this helps. But I think that this also requires investments. And in other words, if we want to put our stakes on this so that our citizens can buy products of this kind that are bio-based to replace those that are derived from oil. What is it we have to do exactly? How can we start? Bia, perhaps you could say something in this respect?
No sé si me escucha.
Yeah, whether you can hear me.
I have some hearing problems because of maybe my bandwidth. Was it a question to me or Ville?
Bien. Luego doy paso entonces a Finlandia. Javier.
Well, we'll go to Finland later and we'll start here. Well, this is an ongoing debate. I think that today there are already clear and specific cases where wood is more competitive than other products. In other words, the first example I presented, the wood-based product we use has a price, that is sawdust, has a price of between 50 and 100 euros per ton. That material that costs 50 to 100 euros per ton is going to replace a material that costs more or less €1 per kilo. So it works out very quickly. And that's what the market is aiming at, that on the one hand. And on the other hand, when the sums don't exactly work out the same, there's an environmental criterion that should be used. And that is, how do we achieve sustainability in the whole cycle? How do we achieve sustainability from when we get up in the morning? In other words, we see forests, we see cultivated forests. How do we want to maintain that? The way of maintaining it, or one way, is by promoting an economic activity, and those criteria should also be considered when it comes to making that appraisal, that economic appraisal. It may be an economic appraisal, but it needn't be an exclusively economic. But it would be a quantification of the other returns provided by using this type of material. Well, as Bille said, I don't know whether you can hear me. At the Jonsu building, there are also capabilities, the lighthouse building, by using this type of construction system. In this case, cross-laminated wood or whatever, we reduce the time, we provide safety, and that also enables us to compete against other materials on the market.
There was discussion about promoting to wood construction, how to add use of wood in the buildings. You mean that in Finland we have coming limits for the carbon dioxide emissions of the buildings, and there will be limit values for different type of buildings in 2025. And now we are starting to calculate buildings. So if we want to increase use of wood in buildings, I think we have a quite good knowledge, but it needs to be financial. It needs to be competitive material when you're calculating euros. So we can build these kind of types that we have done here. The pilots, the high one, the big ones, they are important that it's easy and best way to increase the knowledge. But if we want to make volume, it needs to be competitive at the price of the buildings. And like now, it seems that it's in Finland it's a little bit more expensive to build wood. So the sense to build wood can come with these laws in 2025 when we have these limits of the carbon dioxide emissions of the buildings. So I think it's the European-wide project to increase use of wood. So it's in here. It's already like happening. It's coming to.
I completely agree, and yesterday we said that here too in Spain we have a climate change bill that advocates the promotion and defense of this kind of product and raw material. A question, and I would like to put this question to all four speakers, is that in this sense, in supporting research on this type of product, in other words, natural renewable raw materials, how are each of you in your regions integrating the research side, the universities, with the R&D requirements from industries, from businesses, Tuomo, for example?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't fully hear your question, but let me comment on two issues. First of all, this promotion of wooden construction, wooden buildings, I hope you can hear me, is progressing prominently but slowly. So I just last week had a discussion with Egurtek, who runs the company who built this lighthouse building, and he said that he still hasn't got new orders for the last 4 years since this was done. And I think it's simply some kind of systematic administrative inertia that causes this. There's so much investment in construction value chains that they change very little. But it needs to start from this carbon side. That is, climate change is the one driver that we can now see that has an impact on almost every industry, and we should use it unashamedly as a kind of flag to wave on why we need to go to wood. That we need to make wood sustainable, not evaporate into the atmosphere in terms of carbon dioxide, but have it stay in these wooden buildings. And I was very encouraged to hear this earlier presentation from Chile, where they indeed said that 120 years old buildings, the wooden buildings survive even in Chilean conditions. I hope also in Basque Country, but I'd be happy to hear more about that, how durable wooden construction has been in Basque circumstances. Thank you.
Correcto. Rodrigo.
Rodrigo? Sorry, his microphone isn't working. Here we find that the projects I presented are cooperation with businesses, and that's going to make it possible to generate the necessary feeling. But here in the Basque Country, we've created Baskegur, and what they're doing is to use the knowledge that can be obtained by the universities or technology centers to later cooperate with industry. And I think that that's the path, to try to cooperate with different sectors. And an association was set up about 1.5 years ago, and I think that this is going to be the channel for the medium and long term, because this is necessary in order to somehow escalate these products that are obtained in the laboratory, because the scale-up process is long. We need to build pilot projects and then take it to industry, so that takes quite a long time. Yes, I think that the key, well, I reinforce what Rodrigo has said and what the previous speakers said. I would also like to add that the key lies in defining a common strategy for the region, for the country, where that strategy is led by an association. Baskegur could be one of them. Bioconstruction is an initiative that has been set up specifically for this purpose on a local level in Europe. There's the FI, there's another specific association for this kind of process. So the aim is to prevent something that sometimes We do in R&D. Sometimes we are mismatched with what industry needs. So we need to create a common strategy where all the relevant agents can participate from the sector, regardless of whether a project is the result of the conversation between 2 or 3 agents. I think one of the challenges, and you know the figures better than me, but I think that the GDP figure is 1.2, 1.54, okay, 1.54. That 1.5% of the GDP that we spend on research in the Basque Country, the aim should be to increase it to at least 2 in the coming years in order to be able to work in this way so that we can all work together. Bille, would you like to add something? Yesterday, we were all saying that it's a matter of promoting public-private projects, working together with the industry and with the administration and with the research centers.
Yes. I would like to add something. Our area, Joensuu, has been quite special in this kind of, we have a good abilities to do this kind of things. In Joensuu, we have a University of Eastern Europe. There is a Natural Resource Institute of Finland. We have a European Forest Institute here. And of course, us, Karelia University of Applied Sciences. So we have many research organizations here, and like I told about the Joensuu Lighthouse, there was almost everything made by local companies. So we all research organizations here have worked together with these companies a very long time. I think it's 10 to 20 years, even the first projects. So we have a very close connection to companies, and with each others we do together projects with the same companies. We don't compete with each other. And my opinion is that all this knowledge that we have in this area, all this wood house, wood construction we have here, is cause of this cooperation between the institutes here and the companies here. So I see it's in everything in this subject.
Conocemos la realidad de Finlandia.
Yes, we know about Finland. We have a strong relationship with you. For us, you're a benchmark, and we even have collaboration projects in the area of training and other areas. So I completely agree, and we'll follow you very closely. It's very interesting. I'm going to ask a final question, and this is also for all 4, more than a question. It's a proposal for each of you to give a message. We're being watched by many architects, by many construction professionals. This support for the bioeconomy, for the use of different materials, and one of the niches we're going to address is that of sustainable construction. So what message would you like to send from your point of view in relation to this? What can we say to the prescribers? And we're not Finland here. Here we come from a conventional construction tradition that's very much based on concrete. Although traditionally we use wood, but then we stopped using wood and now we're coming back to it. But what messages could we give from your points of view to promote this kind of product you're working with? I'll start with Tuomo. I don't know whether the sound connection is very good. We're having problems with the signal with Tuomo.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can barely make out what you're saying. I think my bandwidth is simply not adequate for that. But I would like to comment on something that you touched previously about this collaboration with universities, public sector. So this is definitely key elements in Finland, as already confirmed, and regionally in North Karelia even more so. So that the European Forest Institute that we mentioned, which is a close collaborator to Argonaut, as well happens to have its secondary office is rather close to you, Barcelona. And the current Director General is Marc Palahi, he's Spanish, so you would know him. He's been living here in Joensuu for quite a while. But it's also this, like the customers, public sector customers for us are key. They are the organizations managing public forests and also supporting private forest owners in their planning and provide the funding for laser scanning and forest inventory, and also like producing basic forestry plans and making the connections between the forest owners and the buyers, the sawmills that produce the timber. So this kind of a regional consensus and national consensus, whenever possible, is quite crucial in terms of getting all these elements lifted up. And now, indeed, the next big step, I hope, beyond carbon would be indeed wood construction to be deployed and favored in regulation. So it's another aspect where government entities have to play a game and hopefully come along with scientists in terms of renewing our construction practices to a more environmentally sustainable direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuomo. I apologize because there are problems with the connection with Tuomo. And I'll continue with Rodrigo. That message we can send to the prescribers to encourage them to work with this kind of product. Well, I think that the first thing is knowledge about what is being done. Egurtek has been held for a long time, and this somehow puts the people that use wood in touch with other elements related to wood, as we're discussing. If there's no knowledge, no know-how, and the prescribers, the builders, etc., usually don't read many scientific journals, and that's where knowledge can be found. So we need to find a way of disseminating that know-how, and with the help of the administrations, in order to be able to use these materials in pilot projects as we obtain them in the various labs. I think that the key is knowledge on what's being done. And on the other hand, at least at the university, we're very poor salespeople. We do a lot of work, we publish a lot of studies, but then nobody knows what we're doing. Because often it's put in a drawer or it's in our journals, and that's why the university should also make an effort to disseminate what it does, and to establish synergy and collaboration with other groups, and in particular with the people that are going to use the products we develop once they're put on the market. And as discussed in the previous question, we have to consider the cost. The major challenge to determine whether these materials are economically viable, because from the point of view of sustainability or in relation to the circular economy, it's obvious that it's a major challenge. Yes, and that's where we need the bridge we mentioned, integrating knowledge between technology centers and industry, as they're doing at Joensuu. Javier? Yes, let's say that the brief message for prescribers is that they should bring in environmental criteria. Include these environmental criteria, where what we've been discussing, the various examples, are products that are going to be clearly winners. And in those environmental criteria, one of them is using local products, the raw materials to be used should include proximity criteria and sustainability criteria for the raw materials themselves. And this is to give out a very specific message. And this just reinforces what the other speakers have said. But I think that with sustainability criteria on the utilization of raw materials from more or less nearby. This should help to win the contract or meet the prescription. And yesterday we were saying that industry in the Basque Country, not to mention Finland, have a high level of self-consumption, more than 70% locally. And it's true that this needs to be considered from the point of view of sustainability. And I'll close with Guillem. I would like to know your opinion. What message can we send? You've told us a lot of very interesting things. What can we say to these architects, engineers, professionals that are listening to us?
I think also that the keys could be this benchmarking and worldwide sharing of information. Everything research we made here, we give it for free to everyone to see. So it's not a secret, and it is cost that we see that there's no need to make some same mistakes again. And the knowledge to make these projects comes with the projects. So if you want to increase knowledge, you need to get pilot projects, and you need to get constructors to try these things. And for example, we have done here that we have two constructors to see in their own eyes the projects, what has been made in another cities, maybe even in Europe. And it has been very good way that when you see something made with your own eyes, you can see something that it is possible. It gives you the courage to try to see and to know it is possible to make. And I think that here in Joensuu that has been this open sharing of information and openly seeing what is done elsewhere in the Finland and in the Europe is the keys that why we have so many these cases here, and we could proudly say that we have been pioneers in the wood construction here.
Without a doubt, and we will continue to work together. Kiitos, Bilden, Tuomo. Thank you very much, Javier, Rodrigo. Apologies for the technical problems we've had. But it's what happens when you go live, and we'd like to encourage you. This is the Week of Wood, as you know, and this has been different. Egurtek will have to get used to this kind of format, but thank you all very much, and I look forward to seeing you all again. Thank you.
Buenas tardes. Me toca cerrar.
Good afternoon. It's up to me to close today's meeting, and I would like to summarize
fundamentalmente,
the meeting. Subjectively, I'm an architect, and I have to say that I'm hopeful. I'm very interested in the presentations yesterday and today, where we've gone from Norway through Barcelona, back to Barcelona, and then to Ireland, and we ended up in Chile. And we've seen all kinds of differences: geographic, climatic, economic, even typological differences in construction solutions, using wood as a lining, as a structure, as furniture, and we've seen the versatility and the economy. I was impressed by the case of Chile when we asked why they choose wood. They say because it's associated to cheap dwellings, which from an architectural point of view is perhaps the following. We're seeing something not affordable. And the Barcelona project was very interesting from a societal point of view, but also from the point of view of collective dwellings and multi-family dwellings, which perhaps is the next war horse. And Paul showed us, or told us, the difficulties they've had, not in how long it takes to convince the administration to carry out sufficient changes in the ordinances, such as the car park regulations, but also some technological and construction ordinances, such as sound, things that need to be resolved. And the technical panel discussion, I thought, was extremely interesting to see the possibilities regarding insulation, linings, and I'll end with a hopeful view, and I hope that through timber construction we will make life more sustainable. So with this I'll say goodbye and hand over to Arate Teyaeche and Xavier Basanez, who are going to close Egurtek. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much, Luis, for being the moderator today. Thank you. And these our words are in Basque. We'll just wait for her to switch to Spanish. We've had 2 intense days where we've listened to the contributions from international experts. Top-level architects have explained that wood construction is growing in the number of customers and also companies in the sector. Nobody doubts about the excellent qualities of this material for sustainable building today. Architects, engineers and designers bear it more and more in mind, and the expectations are very positive. The technical meetings organized by Baskegur have clearly explained the importance of forestry, bioeconomic bioeconomy, and by using these tools. And the Basque Country knows a lot about this, since we are 15 points above the European average forestry covering. More than 55% of our land are forests, and we have a very forestful sector that works together from the planting to the obtaining wood products and byproducts. And the goal is to be a point of exchange for all agents in the sector. Machalen yesterday mentioned that it was necessary to make industry aware of the benefits of using wood beyond the forestry sector. She said that success will be reached by taking that path together. And that's why meeting points like Egurtek are necessary to show the world what professionals of architecture, construction and design are doing with wood as a connecting point. And at closing this edition, I don't want to forget our exhibitors who continue to support Egurtek faithfully. Their capability for innovating means that architecture is a very dynamic reality. I encourage you to look at our exhibitor directory on our website. So we come to the end of Egurtek 2020 and we start to look forward to 2022. And these words again are in Basque. I'll leave you now with the Managing Director BEC, Xavier Basanez, who will close this edition of Egurtek. Xavier.
Eskerrik asko, Arate.
Egurtek 2020 comes to its close. The transformation of the forum to a hybrid format because of the circumstances has been a complex challenge. The Egurtek team has worked hard to make the conference and the technical sessions as successful as the 7th previous editions, and the challenge has been overcome satisfactorily, and this has enabled us to enjoy a quality forum with a very high professional level that continues to be a benchmark in the speciality. For this reason, I would like to thank and congratulate everybody that has made this possible. The Telesonic technicians, the BEC teams, the teams from Baskegur, the Association of Architects and the Basque government. Thank you all very much. Yesterday, when we opened the 8th edition of Egurtek, we said that we should make use of the fact that the digital world has no distance. The use of streaming has enabled us to break some of those distance barriers and share a forum with architects from Canada, Norway, Finland and Ireland. Thank you all for your efforts and for sharing your experience with other professionals in the sector. When the time comes to make appraisals, I'm sure that many of the issues we've discussed at this edition will carry on in the future. So we've come to a successful end of the conference, but there's nothing like an in-person conference, because that is where the soul of this forum lies. Egurtek is what it is thanks to the presence of exhibitors, as Arate said, professionals and participants. We hope to be able to get together again here in Bilbao at the BEC Exhibition Centre in 2020. I look forward to seeing you all at the next edition.
En Biohouse apostamos por la construcción saludable. Distribuimos productos fabricados con materias primas naturales de marcas líderes en aislamiento térmico, acústico y sistemas de hermeticidad. Máxima eficiencia y confort con el menor impacto ambiental.
Un tejado es algo más que una cubierta para tu casa. Lanzamos soluciones innovadoras como los sistemas BMI Everguard, Tectum Pro y Tectum First para darte soluciones duraderas líderes en el sector. Invertimos en la nueva generación de instaladores a través de BMI Academy. BMI, porque es algo más que un tejado.